Alrighty, so now I'm going to show you a little bit of chenilling with a little bit of a difference. Normally chenilling is used with the slash cutter. So the slash cutter actually slashes fabric. It's pretty amazing. And what you normally do with chenilling is you layer up lots of fabric. So you have a base fabric and then you layer up other colours of fabric and you stitch on top and you cut through it. But what I wanted to do for this one was I wanted to use a single layer of fabric and try it and then do some stitching, and it came out really effective. So I'm going to show you how to do this and then I'll show you how to do it with multiple layers. So basically what I did was I cut my fabric on the cross and I did a 1/4 inch seam. And then I did 1/2 inch seams all the way along. Then what you do is you cut in the bottom layer only with a pair of scissors. So you don't cut the bottom layer, you put this underneath your fabric and you cut 1 inch in. Then with your chenille cutter, what the chenille cutter does is it sits on the bottom layer of your fabric, and because you've done a 1/2 inch seams, you just cut and it goes perfectly through the middle. So I'll show you again. You just put it in the bottom layer and it just goes there and you just cut through and it's perfectly through the middle. So it's a very interesting tool. I love it, absolutely love it. But what you would normally do is you would have your layers of fabric. So your base layer would be the layer that you might want to see because you don't really see the other layers, they just become part of the fabric. And on this particular one, what I did was I have the base layer of a purple fabric, then I have another mauve, and I have a yellow, and I have a blue. Then I just cut out a picture of a sun and I just sat it on top. And then I diagonally stitched, and you can see I've diagonally stitched with a metallic thread. So I've done rows and rows. So the secret to getting the chenilling really well is to do it on the cross. So whenever you do it, you actually stitch it on the cross. And then when you cut it and you wash it, it chenilles up and it never frays again. It's actually incredible. So I'll just show you on this one here. I'm going to I'll cut a piece of fabric. Where did I put my scissors? I'll cut a bit of this fabric on the cross, and I'll sew some of it beautifully and straight. I'll sew some of it with just layers of fabric underneath, and then I'll sew the other bit with this on top, and then I can cut through multiple layers and show you. So if you just have your piece of fabric, and the first stitch you're going to do is just a straight stitch a 1/4 inch away from a cut edge. It's very simple. Oh, find my foot control. And yeah, it's nothing hard about it. It's all straight sewing. It just takes time. So I'm just going to straight stitch through here and steal my foot control back again. That's right, I stole my foot control. Don't take your foot control to work and leave it there because it's a bit of a nuisance, but luckily they both fit. So just straight stitch with your 1/4 inch seam. If you're going to be having it as a finished edge, backstitch that last little bit to make it stronger. So this is something you can use for a bath mat. You could put the bottom layer of this, could be toweling. You could put all your layers on top and then you could slash it, wash it, and it would be a great bath mat. They just take a little bit longer to dry because they're quite thick and heavy. Now I'm going to put on my normal foot because I don't want a 1/4 inch foot. So I'm just going to show you. I'm going to put on my normal foot. And if you use your little guide, which is your seam guide, you want to mark a 1/2 inch away, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch away from your first seam. So that's 1.2 centimetres, and you want to stitch every single row across here. So what I do is I put my foot down and I move my needle position. Oh, tell it the right foot, it won't let you do anything. But move your needle position. There we go. And make sure it's a 1/2 inch. I've gone to, oh, there we go. So I'm now going to sew, and I'm just going to run my foot along that first row of stitching. I don't have to do anything else. So I'm going to run my foot along there, and I'll just back stitch and I'll lock it off. Then I'm going to come back to the beginning and do the same thing all the way along. When I get to using up my bit of fabric, I don't normally just plonk a bit of fabric on top, but say I do, after the last row of stitching, I'll trim it 1/4 inch away from the last lot of seam, the last line of sewing. So you watch when I come down. That's why I'm just chucking a bit of fabric on so you can see there's no rules. So I'm going to start here this time. Oop, back stitch. Forgot. Just make it a bit stronger. So I think I can do one more row of stitching. I'll do one more row and it'll be a 1/2 inch away. Then I'm going to trim it to 1/4 inch. So if you haven't cut that strip perfectly, doesn't matter. Really doesn't matter. Right, so I've done 1/4 inch seam from here to my first seam. 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. And I can't do another one because I didn't cut the fabric straight on purpose to show you. So now I'm going to cut this 1/4 inch away from my row of stitching. So I'm just eyeballing it. There is no rules. It's all going to fray up. It doesn't matter. But what I do want to do on this one is I want to show you the chenilling on this, but I also want to show you chenilling on this side. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a curvy row of stitching, and I'm going to do rows and rows of curves to show you that the other part of the chenille foot has another adapter, and this adapter means I can do curves. So I want to show you both of those. So now I'm just going to sew some nice curvy edge. I'll clear it and put on center needle position, and I'm just going to sew a nice wavy line. This can be used for waves or grass or whatever. And I'm not layering another layer on top. And now I'll put my needle position back over and I'll do my 1/2 inch. I might actually do it this way. Go closer. Is that 1/2 inch? Get my little guide. Yep. And now I'm going to go this side. Back stitch. So there's no rules. You can do anything you like with chenilling. You do have to go slower because you want this to be really nice and even. So then when you cut it, it will cut evenly through the center and not be uneven when you do your chenilling. So this part you do have to go slower. I'm going to go to the other side again, this side. I can do another row. And this is where you can do a whole lot of fun because it's such a clever tool. And they're not very expensive, about $34 I suppose. A lot of fun. And the best part about it, use all your uglies underneath, all your fabrics you don't like. And now I think this one, I'll turn around and go back this way. And that will give me my same width. So use the fabrics you don't like underneath, use your favourite fabric on the top, and you will only see a glimmer of those other colours when you've chenilled it. So I kept mine blue and white. Here's the secret. So that's it there. Now I need some small scissors. Oh, these ones will probably work actually. These will be fine. So the secret to it is, first thing first, trim that off. The secret to it is only get all your layers. My bottom layer is the blue, so I'm only cutting the top layers, and I have got 1, 2, 3, 4 layers on top. So I'm making sure, if I turn it over and show you, I'm making sure I'm not cutting that bottom layer. I have to turn my scissors upside down to show you. Do not cut the bottom layer, but cut the other layers right through the middle. Okay, so the bottom layer is still got my scissors in there, but it's not getting cut. So now back to this one, so make sure you go under your bottom layer, 1 inch, under your bottom layer. You can leave that bottom layer an inch out if you like, it makes it easier. And then when you come to these ones, remember your bottom layer is your blue, and you're going to clip them in just an inch. Your bottom layer is the blue, you're going to clip it in. Your bottom layer is the blue, like that. Okay, so for the straight cutter, this is when you do your straight rows. Now all you do is you can see your bottom layer, and this slides on top of your bottom layer. You hold your work, and then you simply just cut, because it just goes through your work, because you've done this width right for this width. It tells you in the notes what colour, what width to do it. They're 1/2 inch. So again, this lays down, and it's sitting against the bottom of my fabric, and I'm going through all my layers. It's too clever. Okay, so through the bottom and through all my layers. And the magic happens when you wash and dry it in the dryer. It really chenilles up beautifully. Now, once I've finished doing all those layers, they're going to wash up really, really, really nice. But now we want to change this so we have this little short piece on. So what we do is we just unscrew it. By the way, this blade is just a standard blade that you would put in any cutter. And just put that on there, pop that on there, and just screw it up. And now I've got my little short one on. No, I haven't, because I haven't tightened it right. There we go. Are we tightening? That didn't work. Okay, should we try that again? That one. That one. Yep. Little washer. And I'll just make sure I've got this right. That goes on there. There we go. There's a little, you can see where it fits in, and it clips. Try that again. Pop that one in. And it's really easy, honestly. That feels better. Cool. Now, what else was I going to say? Nothing. So, when you are cutting, when this little piece from here to here gets blunt, just unscrew this and turn your cutter around, all right, because it stays in that one place. So now I'm going on to here, and this time I can do curves because I've got my little cutter on. See how it goes round, and it just follows the course of your stitching. It's so cool. And you can't go wrong because you've done your inch cutting at the beginning. Okay. Round. And curves are fun, and they're very, you get some great results. But like I said, you don't see the full impact until you actually, and I don't normally do it standing up. But anyway, it gives you the idea. Clever, huh? So who would have thought you'd sew your fabric together and then you just chop it out. And when it's all chenilled up, see the different looks you can get. So this one, it's going to be very, very blue and white, like you could do the sky, you could do water or anything. You layer another layer of fabric and it gives you a whole different look. So chenilling is a lot of fun, and you get both those tools in the pack when you buy the pack, and it's by Clover, and they are very, they're a lot of fun. But what I'm doing, or what I have done on my cushion to give it a really fun effect. What I've actually done is I've sewn all my seams one way, and then I'm pushing them back and sewing them the other way, so I get this beautiful tactile finish on my cushion. And all I did was I used my foot with my sewing guide. So your sewing guide, I've shown you so many times, can fit in any of your Bernina feet. As long as you've got the little screw in there, you just unscrew it, and these fall out all the time, so you need to be aware that they will fall out with the vibration of your sewing. So I've been stitching my straight rows of stitching, and I've set my width about that long, so I need to do it the same. You can have it any width you like. And all I've done, because a lot of you don't know that on your most of your sewing machines, you have got a full reverse button, which means that you can do reverse permanently, and it's in your eye for information. So what I can do is I'm bringing up my bobbin thread, and this is how easy it is. It's so simple. All I did was I got my quilting guide, and that one's going that way, and I'll use this because it's here, and I just pushed my rows of straight stitching. I just pushed all the seams one way. So when I started, I just picked up my first two seams. I went 97D. I'm just going to lengthen my length out. I'm going to go forward and reverse, and as you're sewing you can just fold the next one forward, and you can see that I am just bringing my seam forward, and the last one, this one I just did on the straight, but you're much better to do it on the cross, and reverse it. But instead of turning my work around, all I did was I put my machine on full reverse, so now it's only going to sew in reverse, and I simply stopped there. I reversed my work, and I just got my fabric, and this time I folded it backwards, and once you start, your fabric automatically folds backwards because it catches with your foot. It's clever. And now I don't have to concentrate on doing anything because it's automatically catching and, well, nearly, if it doesn't, keep an eye on it, and folding backwards. And so I just sew it backwards. See, it's making a liar out of me, but roughly enough. Just make sure it folds backwards. Once you start going, you get quite quick at it. And then reverse. Go all the way back. And then what I did, cut the thread, I took it off my reverse, and I jumped across, and I used my guide, and this time I brought all my seams forwards. And that's how it is. Very, very easy. It's a lot of fun, and it's just a little bit of fabric manipulation, and the effect I thought was rather nice, but it's certainly beautiful when you rub your hands over it. It's very, very tactile. And that's how I did it. So you can see clearly the difference with doing it on the bias. It's a much cleaner finish, and it's not going to fray as much. With this one, it will fray quite a lot because I did it on the straight, and the straight grain of linen will fray. So this will wear much, much better being cut on the cross. And normally chenilling is always cut on the cross, because once it's chenilled and it washed and it's dried, it will never ever fray anymore. So that's why you like to do it on the cross. So that's chenilling in a nutshell. It's a lot of fun. I think it's quite creative, but you end up with enough fabric to make that cushion from your scraps. Okay, so that is how we do chenilling. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I've got one more little thing to show you, so we'll do that in a minute, and it is very creative. I think you'll absolutely love it. So I'm going to show you what that is in a minute. So I'll see you. You've gone.